You're welcome back. Now, this is just in. The government has suspended the transportation and export of rosewood with immediate effect. Further permits for salvaging and harvesting of rosewood have also been revoked. And we're joined by Joseph Gakpo to tell us a little bit more. Joseph, it's good to see you. Indeed, government is taking action now following our documentary, right?
Just last week, we put a lot of spotlight on the situation of the continuous harvesting of the rosewood species, which is nearing extinct because more than 65% of all the available rosewood species in the savannah area had been chopped off over a 4 to 5 year period, and that triggered a government ban in 2014. But when we investigated this matter all through last year and the early part of this year, we found that despite the ban which is supposed to be enforced, there was the cutting even in some of the most restricted areas, including forest reserves. We brought you videos from the Tumu Forest Reserve and elsewhere, and now we're seeing a situation where government is indicating that now there's a complete ban on the export, because earlier when the first ban came into force in 2014, it was a complete ban on both exports and what they call salvaging, where they say some of the cut rosewood had been lying down even before the ban came into force, so they had to get them out and export them. So that was the ban. But we understand in 2017, then the rules were changed, and then there was a ban on felling, but you are allowed to export when you go to do what they call salvaging, which are already cut rosewoods. And that sounded interesting. And the civil society groups really criticized the shaky policy direction when it came to this particular issue. But now government is reverting to what was the status quo as of 2014. There's a complete ban on exports. There's a complete ban on felling. There's a complete ban on what they even call salvaging, which the government has indicated they are revoking the permits to allow for that. And this is something that the various players in the civil society arena when it comes to protecting the forest had been pushing for a very long time. In fact, Parliament made a recommendation to that effect. This issue was brought to the attention of Parliament by the MP for Busa South. A committee went to investigate, and the parliamentary report that came about a month ago asked government to pull brakes on issuing permits for even what they describe as the salvaging. And so looks like all the huge cry for some efforts on this is hearing some positive response.
Positive response indeed. But if you just joined us and you're wondering what we're talking about, this is what the JoyNews Hotline documentary revealed about our rosewood and what we're doing to it.
Now they are falling the trees, the rain too don't come as we expect them. Because of the falling of the trees, but we are suffering. We are suffering.
We get 1 or 2 rains at the beginning of the year. Farmers ration, they prepare their yam mound and they plant. And then there is a drought spell for maybe another 2 months. And the yam that they have planted get rotten in the yam mound.
Some farmers there in the northern parts of the country complaining about poor rainfall pattern that is making them lose money. A major contributory factor to this has been the indiscriminate cutting down of trees, including the expensive rosewood.
So what it means is that it's going to result in desertification, and we know the impact of the desertification. Yes, we will have much longer, dry spells. We'll have more drought, meaning it's also going to have impact on agriculture, as it were. And this is what we know. At least 60% of Ghanaians depend on agriculture. So if everything we are doing is destroying our base, then we are destroying our future as a nation.
Rosewood is a timber species used mainly for the production of very costly furniture, as well as aircrafts and musical instruments. They are some of the most highly priced tree species you'll find anywhere in the world.
The interior design of ships, the luxurious ones, very expensive ships, the interior design of planes, the very expensive ones. And we also use it, we are told we use it to make the gun bat because it is very durable. And we also, The most expensive bed made in the world is made out of rosewood species. So it can show how valuable the tree species is. But it's unfortunate right in the country, we are not able to even add any value to these species, but we have to export them to China for them to add value to it and also export it to other countries and make a lot of money from it. Right now, our communities, if you even ask how much profit we've made out of this.
Yeah, and that's from the Hotline documentary. Our colleague Latif Idris is actually at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where the press conference to announce these new sanctions and bans was done. Latif, if you can help us, good afternoon, by the way, thanks for joining us. If you can help us understand specifically what this new ban covers.
Yes, so Kojo, the ban, according to the minister who just finished addressing the press here at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, is that the harvesting, we already know, Kojo, that the harvesting of rosewood is illegal because there's been that ban on the endangered species for quite some time now, and so the harvesting was already illegal. Today, what the ministry has come up with again is the fact that the transportation and export of rosewood has been suspended with immediate effect. There is also the ban on those who already had license to salvage the endangered species from the various forests across the country. So that, Kojo, what this means is that people who already hold licenses to salvage rosewood across the forest from today, taking effect from today, right now, the license has been revoked. So nobody in Ghana today has the license to salvage, to harvest, and transport rosewood, both locally and internationally. That is how far the ban has gone, Kojo.
Were there any sanctions announced for those who might be found violating these new bans?
Yeah, the same question I put to the minister, whether there are sanctions, because we know people would still go ahead and break this guideline that has been given by the ministry. The minister said that the Attorney General still has it in the books. The forestry commissions have their own guidelines. So whatever breaches that would be identified by the Forestry Commission, they have the right to take the decision on their own as a commission, and the Attorney General would be on standby to provide them with the necessary legal requirement that they will need to prosecute these individuals in court. So he wouldn't say exactly and explicitly what form of sanction are there for people who break this law. We must also mention that, Kojo, the minister also described as a national security threat the harvesting of rosewood in Ghana. And that is what has informed government today to come up with a decision to place this indefinite ban on the harvesting, transportation, and salvaging of the endangered species across the country, Kojo.
Right. So now that this ban is in place, what is the plan to police and enforce this ban? If a timber truck is rolling down the street, are the police trained to recognize rosewood and arrest the driver and owner of the cargo? Are the people at the ports trained to recognize it to ensure that it's not exported illegally?
So, Kojo, it doesn't even start at the port. What the minister has said today is that the locals should take up the fight against the harvesting of rosewood, so that within the various communities where we have this endangered species in their forest, they should take up the first fight, stand up to these people who come into their communities to cut down the trees. That is what the minister is saying. Start from the communities, and then the forest guards are also, in limited amount. As we know, there are a very limited number of forest guards who have been stationed across some of the regions who would also provide support to these locals to help fight the people who attempt to defy this ban that has been placed on the endangered species. And we must also mention, Kojo, that the transportation, the ban on transportation is both for local transportation and international transportation, so that even within Ghana, the ministry and government does not expect to see anybody transporting rosewood internally, so that whoever will be caught transporting rosewood will be arrested immediately. The government doesn't want to see any form of transportation of rosewood, being it locally here or even getting to the port to even attempt an international trade of rosewood, if you like.
Right, and that's exactly what I was raising when I asked about whether we have trained those at our ports and even patrolling our streets to recognize rosewood and enforce these new regulations. Thank you so much. That was Latif Idris updating us from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Now, let's wrap up on this, Joseph. We used to have a regulation that was all-encompassing. They then edited it, and people complain now they've made it all-encompassing again. But how effective was it when it was all-encompassing anyway? How good were we at enforcing it back then?
No, at least the situation wasn't as worse as it eventually got when the green light was given for export and to allow for its salvaging. So you raised a very crucial point when it comes to monitoring, when it comes to enforcing these directives. They look very good on paper, very far-reaching. You can't even move the logs even if it goes down in the communities. The local people may have to make use of it for the construction of their homes and all. You can't move it from one part of the country to the other. So the training is important, but the requirement is strict that in moving logs like that across the highways, you're supposed to have all the documents on that, spelling out the species, where you're getting it from, where it's going, the eventual destination, which the driver of the truck would have to have and carry along, which may help the police in detecting which are rosewoods and which ones.
We certainly hope so. Joseph Ogoku-Gakpo, thank you so much for joining us with all of that.